whole new world than what we were brought up in. And that's true. Children are in such a different world. And so if we're not intentionally teaching our children about Jesus and the Bible, they'll get it, all the spirituality, and increasingly, I believe, in our society, there'll be all this other spirituality out there, but it's got nothing to do with God or about Jesus. Now, a lot of you parents have already established good patterns with your kids where you sit down each night and you read a story with your kids. And you grandparents, if you've got anything to do with your kids, you'll be doing the same. You read a story with your children tonight, or a Bible story. And one of the things that makes me sad is that a lot of Christian parents believe in reading stories to the kids, but not Bible stories. When I was in Berlin with our oldest daughter, I was reacquainted with some of the great stories, the Berenstain Bears, the Great Honey Hunt and the Bike Lesson and Harry McCleary. Your parents know all those great stories, the great stories. But why not teach them about Daniel and the lion's den? Or David and Goliath? I mean, I actually dug out some of the old books that we used to use with our kids, because one of the things I realise is actually it's very, very difficult to find good Bible stories that are well presented for your children to read. Actually really difficult. We found that way back in our young days, that was actually difficult to find. You had to really make an effort as parents to search around to find good, presentable Bible stories. Some of the stuff you buy in some of the Christian bookshops are terrible. They're antiquated, the pictures are old, the words are old, the kids are not attracted to them at all. Anyway, I thought we had some great stuff. We got the little arch books, remember that, you grey-haired parents, The Great Escape, The Water That Caught on Fire, The Boy with a Sling. I like this one, Sir Abner and His Grape Pickers, which is the story of the parable about the guy who hired workers at different stages of the day. That was one of my favourites. Sir Abner was sleeping as sound as a rock. He woke with a jerk when he heard someone knock. "Who is it?" he called with a stretch and a yawn. "Who's waking me up at the hour of dawn?" Fantastic kind of stuff. You can really dramatise all that with kids. And then there were these little ones, the owl books, The Good Friend, David and the Shepherd Boy, God Made the World. They're great little books that you can sit down and read with your kids. Now, one of the things that frightens parents silly about doing things with your kids, you think you've got to be this great big spiritual person. No, you don't. If you're starting out as a new parent and you've got a little baby and a little one, you can just take one of these and read the Bible stories, just like you read any other story. You read a story of them. And by the time your kids go to school, they already know a whole lot of the Bible stories. And you're putting Bible stories and teaching God's Word and giving them a whole framework, a world framework of biblical framework, even just simply by reading stories, Bible stories to your kids. Now, as a parent, if you're not into the pattern of reading stories with your kids, or grandparents not reading stories with your kids at night, I just want to encourage you to do that. Now, I know that at times, it's a fight. You've got a stroppy 3-year-old, and you've got to fight them every inch of the way, even to get them to bed, let alone get them to quiet, to sit down and read a story and pray with them. I mean, it's a huge mission, some of you, And in our families today, there's no kind of perfect family around. Families come from all kinds of backgrounds. Many of you have been through divorce situations. Some of you solo mums, some of you are grandparents looking after your grandchildren. We've all got brokenness and so forth in our families, but God's in families, whatever kind of family. God's there, and He wants to work with you. And it's not a huge thing to actually take the Bible stories and read stories to your children. And I just want to really encourage you to do that, is to actually, it's actually a lot of fun sometimes too. You've got to loosen up sometimes as parents and dramatise these stories, don't you? Act them out and play with them and all the rest of it. Great stuff. Anyway, second thing that I think this reading Bible stories and praying with your children regularly at night. Second thing that it does is that it builds family traditions and patterns that are really important in your family. I think that, today there is so much pressure on families. Financial pressures, and so mum and dad are both out at work. Stress pressures on the whole front. We're under pressure. And so it's really important for you as parents to actually have patterns in your family where you make time to sit down with your children and just have time together. And your kids will really appreciate it. It gives them a place of security when you do that. These patterns. Now, one of the things that our oldest daughter did with her kids in Berlin, I'd never seen this before, is that when two of her kids come home from kindy at lunchtime, they always have a quiet time after lunch. And one's sent to the room and one's in the lounge, and then no noise. They can play trains or read a book or have a bit of music on, but they're not allowed to contact each other for 3/4 of an hour. It is quiet time. It's to help them unwind, That's a great idea. And, the kids get into the pattern and they do it. I mean, sometimes you have a great battle to get them there, but they do it. And little Josh gets into Emily's eyelash stuff and all the rest of it. And he paints his face all up, and all that kind of stuff, all that great kid stuff that you end up having a battle with. But these patterns in your family with your kids are great. And when you take time, when you put them to bed, to cuddle up and have a pray and pray the love of Jesus on them. And one of the things we'll do next week, we're going to talk about the high fives. Sheena's going to come and show us what that all means. And they're trying to teach parents in this church about doing high fives with your kids at night. Just a little way in which you connect with your kids. And we're going to talk about that next week. Now, one of the things that our daughter and son-in-law were doing in Berlin at breakfast time that I'd never seen as well, they had two little photo albums on the breakfast table. And there was the photo albums of all the people who are their supporters, because they work with AIA, Athletes in Action, and so they got supporters to support them, and their close family people like Grandpa and Grandma, and that's the photo album, you see. And so each morning what they do is they ask the kids to pick someone in their photo album that they're going to pray for at the breakfast table. However, they've got a stroppy 3-year-old boy. It takes all of your effort and energy and time to get him washed and changed into his out of his PJs. You often have a battle to do that. And get him to eat his breakfast. And by the time you do that, you've got to head out the door fast to get him to kindy on time. You know what that's like, parents? I was kind of introduced again to parenting, as you notice. And so I was lucky if they were once a week able to get out the photo album and pray for somebody in the photo album. But I thought it was a great idea. And hopefully when he gets out of his stroppy 3-year-old kind of stuff, maybe they might be able to pray more often at the breakfast table for other people. It was just a little pattern, an idea that I felt was really good that we can pass on and introduce into our families. Third thing that I believe is really important in setting patterns and learning to pray with and read stories with your children, Bible stories, it's a great opportunity to bond with your kids. You just build this bonding because it's a pattern, you're taking time to do it, and there's a sense of bonding. Now, there are increasing numbers of people, those of you who never bonded with your mum or with your dad, are finding it difficult now to bond with your kids, some of you. And we need to create patterns in our family where we deliberately make time and it's consistent, where we actually have those moments where we build closeness and intimacy with our children and learn how to do that. So that there is this bonding of mum and dad with the kids. So important in the life of your children that you build those bonds of intimacy and closeness with your kids, where you bond together with them.